In this section, we will discuss the things you should monitor before and during your transformation. Why should you do that? We monitor different indicators because we want to know if we're moving in the right direction. When we monitor things, we can apply corrective action much faster than if we didn't. Measuring things could also be a powerful motivator, either subconsciously or because you have to report to someone, for example, a coach or your Facebook community. It has been proven that people that monitor the key indicators improve much faster than those that don't. They also keep themselves from relapsing to old habits. But it is not just monitoring oneself, it is doing it with a purpose, systematically, and also knowing how to analyze the data. This section is all about that. In this chapter, we will focus on the physiological measurements you can do at home. Weight is one of the measurements, but not the main one. In general, weight is very overrated and often leads to bad decisions, like dropping muscle mass. It is only useful in the context of other measurements. You should measure weight in the morning after toilet procedures, but before eating or drinking anything. How often depends on many things. The more often you measure yourself, the faster you can react to the changes, or no changes. On the other hand, for many people, measuring is often stressful and can lead to unproductive anxiety. For most, once a week is good enough. For some, it's once a month. Test and see what works for you. Waist circumference. This is a better measurement than weight because it takes body composition into account. It is most effective when taken with weight because you can actually see if the body composition is changing or you are losing as much muscle as fat. Even better is also to calculate waist to hip ratio. The more of those measurements, the better you can monitor the actual body composition change. For example, your weight might be dropping and your waist might be stable or only slightly dropping. That is a vital sign that you aren't losing fat, but muscle or water. You should take waist circumference at the same time when you measure weight. Body composition. Most commercial tests are inaccurate. Body composition tests aren't a requirement for a successful transformation. If you do decide to do it, use pod measuring or DEXA, the only reliable test, but also very expensive. Mirror or photos, visual measurements. Those are the best to see your visual change because your mind adapts to your body's change quite fast. People easily forget the state they were in some time ago and might not even notice the bigger changes. That's why it's recommended to take photos and not rely on a mirror. It can also be an amazing motivation. Blood pressure is a must for people with high blood pressure or higher risk for cardiovascular diseases. The standard method is taking your blood pressure for 5-day periods, once in 3 to 12 months, depending on how stable your physiology is and if there's been any changes to medication, when you take 3 measurements with 1 to 2 minute intervals in the morning and 3 in the evening. It has to be measured when you are totally relaxed physically and mentally. Otherwise, it will give you false readings, like in a doctor's office. That's why you should wait 5 minutes in a neutral state, also emotionally, before taking the measurements. If you feel dizzy, especially when standing up from the chair or bed, you should take orthostatic measurements. First, you take the normal reading when sitting. Then you stand up and take the reading after standing for 30 to 60 seconds. If the standing blood pressure is significantly lower or the heart rate is significantly higher, around 15%, there is something wrong. It might be too big a dose of blood pressure medication, nervous system burnout, anemia, or other problems. If this persists, you should contact your doctor. Those were the most important physiological measurements. It is strongly recommended that you start monitoring yourself, even though it might cause anxiety at first. It is normal and even a good sign. That means that you are facing the problems which you have avoided face on. This is the place where recovery begins. The problems start when we fixate on only one measurement, typically weight. In worst cases, people get obsessed only about the weight number and do anything to get this number down, even if it means dropping muscle weight. That's why it is wise to monitor different measurements and get the bigger picture.